about all of this and just to see, yeah, like hear from you what you've been through. And, obviously you started somewhere and we ended somewhere. So to
hmm
start, I kind of want to go into, yeah, like where were you before this program? What were you struggling with the most? And how were you feeling, mentally, emotionally before starting all of this?
Yeah. So when you and I first talked in October, I had been on quite a journey that was not positive since the February of the same year. So 8 months prior, let's say. And mm, menopause, I am that age. So menopause wrecked me. It wrecked me physically. And I just wasn't, I guess, ready for all of the changes because the doctors in the world only tells you about, hot flashes and no cycle. That's pretty much how they define menopause. But
Yep.
what my body was truly experiencing during that time of just hormonal havoc, I call it, was something very different. And it did not feel good. It felt like poor gut health. It felt like emotional instability. It felt like anxiety. It felt like depression, quite honestly. It felt like a lot of weight gain. And all of those things combined just sent me on a spiral downward where I felt like I had no control. I
Mm.
almost didn't recognize myself internally or externally. And that was a really scary feeling for me. So, coming from a type A who likes to be in control, so that was a really scary feeling. And I just kept thinking to myself, it there's got to be something there. It doesn't have to be this way. But medically speaking and clinically speaking, all that I was hearing was, but you're at that age. You're at that stage of your life. You're done having babies. You're in your 50s. This is what all women do. And I just couldn't accept that.
Hmm.
So, but at the same time, I also didn't know what to do. I could only draw on the little bits of knowledge that I had that I've kind of just taught myself or absorbed myself growing up, in a being an athlete, having raising children that are athletes, and just having a general kind of passion and love for fitness and wellness anyway. So I was only just drawing on what that life was like before menopause. And I will say that while that was a good thing because I at least had somewhat of an idea of what I needed to do to change my ways, um, it it wasn't the recipe that I needed. And so I
Mm.
found myself at end and I found myself in a really low, dark place. And that's when October hit and you scrolled across my page.
That's so crazy. Is that crazy how like one small interaction can just change your life? Like
Yeah,
it's just wild.
it,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
It people don't, I don't know that I'll ever be able to accurately describe that day. I,
Mm.
it still blows my mind. It still blows my mind.
Wow. Yeah. And I would definitely want you to share like what happened that day, but also just like recapping before, what I guess what symptoms were you also struggling with? Like struggling to lose weight. I know that you had a goal weight that you were trying to reach for like 3 years or something like that. So what
Mhm.
did that look like in regards to just seeing changes in general and also how you felt?
Yeah. So I was at my heaviest weight. I was at a weight that was just 9 pounds shy of pregnancy weight for me. And I didn't have a baby in my belly, even though I looked like I did. So I was trying to lose weight. I could not get the scale to budge. I was completely unmotivated to do any type of activity. Thank goodness at the time I was a teacher and my activity came from running laps in a classroom around 17 5 year olds. So that was my exercise. And because then I was too tired to do anything, which was another physical symptom I was feeling. I just was exhausted. I had nothing in me that wanted to say, okay, now you can go do this for yourself. Um,
Mm.
I my belly just felt awful. It was bloated. My bowel movements were terrible. I was gassy. I had heartburn. I would eat and then feel worse. And so I just felt like I was in this hamster wheel of, trying to get out of it, and you just see the hamster spin, 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 and you just want to be like, jump, you know, and, and I just didn't know how to. And it was just those repeated issues. I wasn't sleeping well. My sleep was interrupted. I wasn't sleeping for long stretches at a time. I would literally wake up in the middle of the night with these rushes of adrenaline just going through my body from, the dysregulation that I was experiencing.
Yeah. Wow. And just knowing where you are at now, I'm like, that's crazy that you were ever even there, you know? And so with that, it makes me want to go into, where are you at now? And we can go more into also what you've learned and things like that. But yeah, where are you at now? Just with your body and how you're feeling, your routines, all the things.
Yeah. So, October 30th was my day one. So that gives you any sense of the timeline.
Yep.
And, the bottom line is things weren't going to change unless things changed. So my day one was, okay, this cannot get any worse. It just can't, because if it does, I don't even know what that's going to look like. So it has to get better. So I made the commitment, with my husband's support, of course, and we prayed through it. And I said, all right, it is time for me to make an investment in myself. And while those words may sound selfish, actually, I think it was the most selfless thing that I could have done for me, because what I realized is I was not the best version of myself as I existed prior to October 30th. And October 30th was the beginning of me kind of peeling off the layers that have just caked on and caked on and caked on to get back to the best version of me. Notice I said best version, not perfect version, because there was no room for perfection in this. There was absolutely progress. And that is what I needed. And so day one of tracking food, trying to get in that water. For someone who lives at the beach, water and I sure don't have a good relationship. um, tracking my food, getting the water in, and moving my body were the first three things that I said, this is what has to change. I don't know what this is going to look like, but this has to change. And even after just 1 week of doing that, I could feel a difference. And it was a difference that I was proud of. And that was the other thing, is I just had this sense of pride, like, Kelly, you really do have it in you. You really do have it in you. You've just been so weighted down, literally weighted down physically, and weighted down emotionally because of the physical weight. And I just started to feel those layers coming off. And so fast forward the tape, I committed to the 12 weeks, and it wasn't perfect, but boy, did I again just get lighter and lighter. Even if I wasn't lighter on the scale, I was still lighter emotionally, because I was moving my body and feeling strong, and getting enough water, and the gut issues started to go away, and my sleep was improving and probably better than it had been. Clothes started feeling differently. And when all of those things happen, those are all like little, I don't know, like light bulbs or fireworks or whatever you want to call them, that remind you that this journey you're on is working. So keep going.
Wow. It's just so night and day. I love hearing your story, because I'm sure it's hard for those that are in their 50s or older even, that feel like I've already reached my peak. This is it. This is just how life is now. But you chose to change the story. And now you are down on the scale, right? Not that that's the only progress, but
Right.
even within, I think it was the first 4 weeks, you reach below your goal weight, or not goal weight, but the weight you were trying to get past,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. Yes. I went under a certain number that I hadn't been under in 4 years. Yeah.
Wow. And it's just from
Yeah.
small changes. It's not like you sacrificed everything and just put your life on hold
Yeah.
to
No.
like get there. So that's really awesome. And I'm always just encouraged by your story. I think that because of how long you struggled for before you came, it just
Mhm.
is such a bigger testimony of like, it doesn't have to be so rigid. It doesn't have to be so strict. You don't have to, again, put your life on hold, because a lot of people think that they have to pause their lives for their fitness journey of like, now I have to sacrifice all this time and all this money and energy and all of this stuff. But it's like, no, we just get to incorporate it in our lives. And
Mhm.
when we do, it becomes more of a lifestyle instead of just a temporary fix. So
Absolutely.
with that, yeah. So with that, what do you feel like your biggest takeaways were from this program? Like, what weren't you doing before that you're doing now that feels more natural? Um, and just go more into that.
So I had mentioned that, I was not completely foreign to the whole fitness world.
Right.
I understand good nutrition. I know how to read a label. I know what I'm looking for as far as fats, carbs, proteins, fiber. I understand calories in, calories out. I understand, movement. I understand all those things. But I don't think what I truly understood was the recipe for all of that. Each of
Hmm.
those things in isolation, I cognitively know about. But what I
Right.
didn't understand was how the connection to all of that and what my body needed in terms of that formula. So, from a macronutrient perspective, I've never tracked carbs, proteins, and fats before. I've always just looked at, okay, well, this food has this many calories and I need to burn this many calories. It was always a calorie. And what I've learned is at the macronutrient level, that is the fuel for my body. And so
Mm,
what does my body need in terms of the right combination of fuel to keep it going and keep it working in an optimal condition? And so that was
right.
a huge eye to me. Um, Fats were no longer a dirty word for me. It's
Yeah.
no, I'm not going to have fat-free cream or, no, I don't want fat-free cheese. you know, everything doesn't have to be fat-free. I welcomed fat into my life, which was good. So I think that for me, I had like the bits and pieces of the puzzle, but it didn't come together until I learned about macro to mindful. And I'm still not completely in mindful mode yet. I'm way
Right.
better at it than I was, but I'm still not completely there yet. But that's okay, because right now what I need the training wheels. But I don't feel restricted by those training wheels. I actually feel empowered by them, because
Mm,
I feel like that is my life preserver so that I don't sink back into those old habits again. And
mm,
just then to add the Christian spin to it, that was a real bonus for me, because I remember on our call in October, I said to you, I cannot look myself in the mirror right now and say to you with 100% truth that I know I am fearfully and wonderfully made. And
mm.
and through this process, I can now look at myself in the mirror and go, dang girl, he knew what he was doing, so, you know,
Amen.
there's a confidence that just comes along with this journey. And I don't think I was prepared. I was prepared to be changed on the outside. I knew that if I stuck with this and I did what I needed to do to make the changes, that certain physical things would happen. But what I wasn't prepared for was how changed on the inside I would be, from
Mm,
an emotional standpoint too. So and I am thrilled about that.
Wow. I'm like getting teary eyed hearing that. Holy Spirit, be Holy Spirit in.
That's a,
But
that's a, and one more thing. I will say that I also realized that I don't have to complicate things. This changing your lifestyle does not have to be like launching some kind of rocket science. It doesn't have to be like climbing Mount Everest. It doesn't have to be this earth moving, curtain tearing, spotlight flashing, dramatic event. It just
mm,
means you put one foot in front of the other and keep taking the steps.
mm.
And that's what I did. So don't overcomplicate it. And there's nothing complicated about what this program offers me as long as I was willing to receive it.
Oof, that last part, got to be willing to receive that.
Yeah.
Because sometimes,
It's,
I'll go ahead.
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, sometimes we get in our own way of like, we try to make it so complicated because we feel like we're not doing enough or we're not eating the right way enough or enoughness, right? But
Mm-hmm.
once you simplify it and you start recognizing and just become aware of what are the patterns that are keeping me stuck, once you become aware of that and we start
Right.
changing those things, right? It can be that simple. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's a
And
big part of your journey.
I think you hit the nail on the head when you use the word enough, because the world wants us to constantly think it's not enough.
Mm,
The secular view of things is it's not enough. You don't have enough likes. You don't have enough followers. You don't have enough, I don't know, whatever. Name your thing. Your shoes, purses, whatever, but the bottom line is when God made us, it was enough. So right there,
mm,
that's where the buck stops. You are already enough. And that is what I had to, that was something I learned in the process, is like, you know what, I am enough. I can do this. All the I can't, this is never going to work for me. Tried it 100 times. I tried this, I tried that. I already know about this. I already know about that. That was not enough, but once I just sort of surrendered to the process and said, okay, how's it going for you, Callie, trying to do this on your own? That's not enough. so, it those kind of things all sort of fell into place too.
mm. Love that so much because it's all about, well, it's not just about the physical journey, it's also about where you're going mentally because,
Mhm.
your mental changes is what keeps the sustainability, what allows you to be successful even after the program. And because of where you're at and you allowed yourself that growth and you surrendered, I think that's a great word. Because it truly does take an active surrender of letting go of control of what you thought would work or
Mhm.
what you think would work. And instead being like, I'm actually going to trust what's given to me and trust my body and knowing that it can do what it needs to do for me to get to where I need to be. We have less of like a grip on the outcome and more of a surrender to the process. And I
Right,
think that's
right.
exactly what you experienced. So with that, what would you say to someone who's on the fence? Like either joining this program or even investing in their health in general. Um, Maybe they're a chronic dieter, macro tracker, whatever it is, wherever they're at in their journey. What would you say to the person who is hesitant?
Well, first I would say again that you are enough and you are worth it. It's the bottom line, that
Mm,
this is not about, getting bikini body ready. This is not about proving yourself to the world. This is about you in the body you were created in. And I just think that, this space that God is letting us rent while we're here on earth, you get one shot. You get one shot at this body. You don't put it on a shelf 30 days later and go, I think I'll try this one instead. So this is our rented suit, for lack of better words, while we're here on this earth. And why wouldn't I choose to fuel it properly, to move it properly and safely, and try to have myself in an optimal state of health for as long as my days are numbered?
Mm.
I always say, I say to my kids, I have 3 daughters, and I also feel like part of my journey was sending a message to them about what you do in your younger years shows up for you in your elder years. And while I don't consider myself elderly, let's face it, that is the way we're all moving, right? So,
Yep.
husband would say, we're on the back 9 of the 18 holes, Kelly. And so, you know, I'm like, your choices you make now will show up for you later. And so what do you want that to look like? And it's hard to think that long term sometimes because we're so in the moment and in the now and an instant gratification type of society. But what do you want it to look like later? Do you want it to look like good heart health? Do you want it to look like, able and flexible joints? Do you want it to look like good lung capacity? Do you want it to look like, good skin? Do you want it to look like just healthy vital organs, low blood pressure, low cholesterol? You know, what do you want that to look like? And if that is the picture you want to paint for yourself, then you have to just take the next step. You get one shot. I always tell my girls, you wouldn't choose not to put gas in your car, right? You just wouldn't, because it would run out. It would hurt the engine. It would slow you down. You wouldn't be able to do things if you didn't have a car. You wouldn't choose not to brush your teeth. You'll end up with probably heart disease and gum disease and dentures. So why wouldn't you choose to not invest in yourself? Because this is the space you live in. So when you kind of boil it
Mm.
down to that, it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the most important asset that you own. Like,
Yes.
there's nothing greater that you can have. That's really encouraging. What was your fear when we were on our call, right? Our first call. And
Mm-hmm.
what was that fear of, like, you were about to take the step, but you were hesitant? What
Mm-hmm.
was going through your mind, and what helped you get over that fear to take that leap?
Well, I had 2 fears actually. My one
Yeah.
fear, am I allowed to say the second fear? the the one
Same all.
fear, the one fear was, okay, Kelly, Faith is not the first person that you have, come across. That does this sort of thing. It is. Years. One was, I'm like, okay, you've looked at hundreds of these pages. There's a lot of lifestyle coaches out there, not going to lie.
Yeah.
What makes this one different than anything else you've looked at, tried, thought about, kind of invested in, but then sort of backed away from? What makes this different? And I just felt like it was. There was, that's the only way I can explain it. There was just a different connection. There was a different sense of peace. There was a different mindset. And honestly, I think it was the Lord had to take me through that terrible, awful time, the 8 months prior, to get me in a situation and in a position and in a posture to say, all right, now are you going to look at what I have for you? So that was
Mm.
my first. My second fear was, and I think we all have fears of finances, and I had a financial fear. I think I remember saying to you, like, okay, let's address the elephant in the room. you know, I had a financial fear. And, and honestly, that financial fear was also connected to the fear of telling my husband what that financial fear was going to be. But again, if you don't invest, then you don't reap the benefit. So whether my investment was a financial investment, or whether my investment was a time investment, or whether my investment was a weeks of commitment investment, or whatever, what have you, a weekly call investment, it didn't matter. If in order for something to change, you have to make a change. So I had to turn that fear over, and I had to say, if this is you, Lord, you're going to make a way.
Right.
And that fear went away, and my husband was not fearful when I told him. So that is definitely, those were my two most immediate fears. And then I think probably a third fear was, okay, here you go again. Let's do this. You're strong out of the gate, but are you going to finish? And
Mm,
and while I never want to say I'm finished, because I don't think you're ever finished. It's a journey. It's but I did what I needed to do. I put in the work, and have reaped the benefits of the work I've put in. And it makes me want to stay on this journey. I'm still motivated by this journey. I'm still excited about this journey. It's not like, oh, you had a lot of go in the beginning, but you kind of fizzled out. And might I remind you, I did this over 2 holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas.
yeah, that's right.
So that was like, I was doing all this over 2 holidays, and I didn't lose stride. So
Wow. It's good to hear your fears and the fact that you were able to overcome them. Because I think when it is from the Lord, there is a sense of peace. And sometimes there's still going to be a little bit of worry in the back of your mind with peace. Like,
mhm.
because ultimately it's a sacrifice, and it's something that, like you said, you have to be willing to sacrifice something, and change is scary. Like, and it's hard because you have to change your habits and your thought patterns and all of that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's really encouraging. And I think that, especially with where you're at now, you're still striding. Like, we're months in and you're still like, okay, it's February, there's nothing going on, but you're still seeing this as a lifestyle instead of just, a weight loss goal or a
Mhm.
number on the scale achieved, um,
Mhm.
or whatever else have you. So
Mhm.
that's really encouraging. So, with all of that, thank you so much for sharing your story and where you're at, what you've done. Um, are there any last comments that you would like to say? If someone were watching this video, and they're still like, I just don't know what to do, and I want to take this leap, I don't know, which we kind of just covered, but any last comments that you would say?
I would say just take the next step. The fact that it's a thought at all, and the fact that there's something in you saying that you feel like you need to do something different, is telling you that you need to do something different. And the only way that's going to happen is just taking that next step and putting it into action. It is a way to get real honest with yourself. It is a way to kind of recognize and honestly just fall in love with yourself all over again. And when you can't pour from an empty cup. That's one thing we
Mm,
always said in the teaching. It's like, you cannot pour, you can't fill someone else's cup if your own cup is empty. And so if you're feeling like you're just kind of at that point where you're pouring from an empty cup, then what good are you really to everyone around you? So i think loving and taking care of yourself is healthy. And as a result, look what's able to pour out of you to love and take care of your friends and your family and whomever else you might be responsible for doing that for. And I'm okay with that being contagious. That I'm
mhm,
okay with love and love and help being contagious. And so loving and helping myself gave me the ability to pour that out.
mm. So good. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for your time, Kelly, and just sharing your hope with people, that are probably on the fence. But yeah, thank you so much. Any last comments that you have?
Oh gosh, I could talk for hours about all this, but I would just, there wouldn't be enough Zoom time in our schedule. Just know that whoever you are out there, I am cheering you on, and I hope I get to meet you someday.
Yes, because now you're part of the Rise team, which
I
is really
know.
cool.
I know. Oh my gosh. The Lord just had all this planned out. And boy, did he really show off on this one.
Really did. Like more than I could have even imagined, like with you coming in. Wasn't even a thought for either of us. And yet here
Nope.
we are.
Nope. Nope.
Awesome. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and stop this recording.
Okay.
Um, let's see. Oops.